Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest show on earth. As always, I'm your co-host, Caleb Griffin,
Your other co-host, Evan Lytle.
and we got a great episode for you today. Going to talk a little bit about Andor, what we liked and what we didn't. But first, let's cue the theme song.
Two nerds on a boat, two nerds on a boat, two nerds on a boat that we don't own. Two nerds on a boat, two nerds on a boat, two nerds on a boat that we don't own. It's Caleb
and Evan
and
Caleb,
we're on a boat
and we don't own it. Two nerds on a boat,
two nerds on a boat, two nerds on a boat
that we don't own.
Alrighty. Once again, it's a beautiful song. Um, and if you're joining us again, thank you. If you're watching for the first time, go ahead and click that bell and subscribe to Next Topic Media. And anyways, Evan enjoying some ramen looks really good. Kind of jealous, honestly. Might go make some in a second, but um,
I mean, we are not a podcast that is scared to adventure into the noises of one of the
oh,
hosts eating ramen in your
absolutely
ear.
not. Absolutely not,
Absolutely not.
Like if I had some ramen right now, it'd be right here by my mic. Like absolutely. Let's see. So Andor is going to be our main topic of discussion, but before we hop into Andor, I want to know, how did you like the new Mario trailer?
I liked it, man. I like the like Mario Kart concept that they're like drifting around.
Yeah,
I was
no.
like, dude, no way, they're incorporating Mario Kart in this movie.
Yeah,
What?
it was cool. It looked like they're gonna incorporate not only Mario Kart but Smash, and he
Yeah.
mentioned something about Galaxy. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I'm still, after seeing this commercial, I'm still fine with Chris Pratt voicing Mario. I think it's overly hated on the internet, and I think the movie is going to be really good based on the trailer. Let's hop in to some Andor news. Andor ended a week from yesterday, um, a week ago
And
from
more
yesterday.
and more.
Andor and more. Um,
I like it.
and man, if I had one word to sum up this show, it would be immaculate. Like, this show was just so good, and it never let me down. And I kept waiting for it to, like in classic Disney fashion, just for it to let me down at some point, and it just never did. And I I was really happy with this show, and I honestly think that if we were on the Peach Crispinator, it would get like a 98, 99 because it was just that good. Um, and it's, I don't know, when you compare it to like some of the best Star Wars content outside of the movies, and even with some of the movies, to me, the best Star Wars content is The Mandalorian and The Siege of Mandalore from the Clone Wars. And I really think this one might beat both of those. Maybe not The Siege of Mandalore. I'd have to sit and think about it, but it was beautiful. And those are my initial thoughts. So I'll let you go with your initial thoughts now.
I like those. I think I am in the same boat. I think my one word would probably be like amazing or just like unique. Because I mean it never felt cliche. It never felt like,
Mm,
oh, this is I've seen this plot. This is just new characters doing it. Like it wasn't necessarily like that. And it brings kind of the darker side of like
yeah.
the rebellion. It was a little more gritty, like real worldy ish. I mean, episode 12 alone was just a beautiful like finale. Like it,
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like almost in tears, and it was specifically at the line where he's like, uh, "I will like love you no matter your worst mistakes, or whatever." When
Hmm.
what's his name had said that, and I was like, "Gosh, dude, that just hits hard." Like it's just the show alone was just so beautifully crafted. Really, like they
It
told
really
this
was.
story and they did it so well.
Yeah.
And just the visuals were amazing, and you never knew what to expect. Like it kept you on your toes.
Yeah. I mean, there was really nothing about the show I didn't like. It, I mean, it was so good. Like, I was thinking about this, like, you know, I know there are a lot of bad guys. There's a bad guy in like almost every movie or TV show to come out, but I think like there's been very few times where I physically wanted to hop through the TV and like hurt somebody, and it was probably like the circus keeper in Avatar: The Last Airbender when he was hurting Appa. That really made me mad, and probably like Carlo in The Godfather, and then today or not today when I watched the episode where Bix was getting interrogated, dude, I was mad. I was like,
Yeah.
stop. Like, and it just like you saw not only it's the first time in my life I've other than the fact that they blew up Alderaan in A New Hope. It was the first time in my life I've been like, okay, the Empire is actually evil. Like, and all the other stuff, they really you really didn't see why they were evil. You just kind of knew that they were, and that the Emperor wanted power and all this stuff. And here you see like the evilness of the Empire, but you also see the dark side of the rebellion and the things they had to do in order to take down the Empire, like sending a pilot into a massacre they knew was coming. Because if they didn't send them there, the ISB would know that there was an informant within them, and that would end the rebellion before it really even got started. And it was just such a good series, and it really like changed my view on Star Wars TV because the last two shows we've had have just not been good.
I agree with that like 100%. It was just they show you like they show you kind of the beginnings of each side, really. And, you know the Empire is going to be the bad guys. Like it's just that's common. But then like the rebellion is like yeah they did like by movie standard you wouldn't really consider it a bad thing. Like oh you blew up a giant machine that destroys planets. But I mean there were people inside those machines.
Yeah.
Um, so like it kind of like it kind of reinvents that idea to you. Like yeah they are the heroes of the story, but that doesn't mean they're like in the clear.
Yeah.
And the show was like really good at that. They're just like these people had to do bad things, but for a good cause, and
Right.
that would result in protecting and providing peace.
Yeah. What I loved is that they weren't afraid to let Andor kill people.
Yeah,
Like I was so worried so many times. I was thinking like, man, just kill them. And like most of the time you see in Star Wars, they don't. They just kind of like walk away or show mercy. And I was like, that's not Andor's character. It He learned that in Rogue One. He learned, to be more merciful, I guess. But this was before the events of Rogue One, so I really wanted to see the dark side of Andor, and we did because he killed two people at the beginning, the first episode,
yeah.
and then one of my favorite scenes was the heist episode when one of the guys is talking about turning on the entire team and running away, and he just shoots them. I was like,
That's what like I was hooked on the show from episode one, mainly
mm-hmm,
because like oh my gosh, I just saw the protagonist of the story. You wouldn't expect in like most media and most content to like kill two people. I just saw him kill two guys, so I'm hooked. I want to know like what's his anger, what's his deal,
exactly,
and then you learn it, and then you hit like episode 6, and the guy from the heist is like, "Oh, we'll split it between me and you. We'll go our separate way." And he just shoots him. I'm like, "What?" Like then I was even more hooked. Like it kept me intrigued with each episode.
yeah. And I think like if the show ever lost me, it was right after he had gotten arrested. I was like, well, is he not joining the rebellion? Like, what's happening? And then it kind of shows, like, you know, he really did not care about the cause because he just wanted the money from the heist. And then he goes to jail, sees the truth about the Empire, the fact that they've arrested people for nothing, that they're just letting people die in a prison cell without letting them be released. And he kind of's like, okay, yeah, the Empire got to go. And that's when he kind of realizes while he's there, yeah, this is not okay. Um, and I really like that they did that because it was really cool to see his origin and hatred of the Empire. Um, Not to mention the riot at Marva's funeral. Just so many things that you see that it's like, oh gosh, I hate these people. like, and one of the saddest scenes, I can't remember his name, but he's directed a bunch of things and he was in Black Panther and Iron Man. And what's his name? You know the guy I'm talking about, right?
Favreau, John Favreau.
No, not John Favreau.
No.
It's he's
Um,
got the beard. He was the leader of their prison group. Um,
oh, um, oh man. Uh,
I'll have to look that up because that's gonna kill me.
no,
Because I know his name. He directed the live action Jungle Book, or they called it
yeah,
Mowgli or something like that. But um, Andor cast. Um, Andy Serkis.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
Andy Serkis. One of the saddest parts in that show is when his character they finally escape and he's like, I can't swim, and Andor gets separated from him. I was like, in Rogue One fashion, not everyone's gonna get saved. People have to die for this, and they did, and we saw that beautifully executed once again, just like we did in Rogue One.
That that did hurt.
It
I
hurts bad.
It was just like, oh man. Like I've never watched Game of Thrones, but if I could like comment, I would just say like Andor was kind of like the Game of Thrones of Star Wars. It was very dramatic.
Hmm.
Every choice basically had severe outcomes. I mean, you get tied to the characters. Like from what I understand of Game of Thrones, I would my analogy would just be that Andor was kind of like the Game of Thrones of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Not like every hero is the perfect hero. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. He's he's not the hero like he's no Luke Skywalker, he's no clean cut, I'm gonna do the right thing. Like if Andor was in Luke Skywalker's situation, he would have killed Darth Vader.
yeah,
He would have killed Kylo Ren when Kylo Ren was a kid. Like he wouldn't have sat and waited. But sometimes you need a hero that is gonna make the hard choice. And that's what Andor is. Um, but getting into some specifics, I mean, some things I really liked about the show that I haven't mentioned yet. The acting was incredible across the board. Everyone played such a good role. Um, from Vale to Luthen, Andor, obviously. And Bix, I think Bix did a very good job. One of the
oh
scenes
yeah,
that like really like shook me was in the finale when Andor's trying to rescue her, and she's been tortured and all this stuff because they're trying to figure out where Andor is, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna get you out of here," and she like starts shaking her head, and she's like, "They'll get angry," I was like, "Oh my gosh, like what did y'all do to this poor girl?" And um, I mean, who else? Marva's acting was great. Uh, the droid was so sad, man. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the droid's name, but Star Wars does such a good job of making you love robots. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, the acting all the way around was incredible and it was very well casted. So, what were some of your like favorite parts of the show that we haven't mentioned yet? Like, I don't know, but like, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
yeah. I mean, same with you. Cast was incredible, and their acting. Like, I don't, I can't think of a bad acting performance from this show. I'm not saying there wasn't one. I'm just saying I can't think of one.
Yeah.
That's like bright. Um, I loved going back to like the first three episodes. I loved his story as a kid. I liked when they did the flashbacks. Uh, just from the start with the escape scene in episode three, I think. Yeah, episode three when they like get away from the cops. That was just an incredible scene, and it carried over with six with their heist escape. Like they did so well at put it like uh, highlighting, I guess, just really making it clear the dangers of the situations they're in, but also like how they got out of them. Like it's like relieving almost when you watch how intense it is, and then you still see them escape, and you have a breath of relief for the characters that you get involved with.
Yeah. No, definitely it did such a good job of like attaching me to characters. Like, you want to see um I can't remember Luthen's money person, the senator lady, you know,
Oh yeah,
you don't want to see her get caught. You don't want to see her daughter have to get engaged at 14. You want
to a gangster's
to, yeah,
son.
literally like, and then, but I mean, it just goes to show you again what the cause meant to people. Like the senator lady let it happen, like
Mhm.
because she needed a way to hide the money she was laundering and stuff, and it's just so well executed, and it's such a sad yet like it even like it's the type of story that it gets you like excited for the future of the rebellion. Like they've done it time and time again, but when someone needs a spark in the rebellion, there's stories like this that are there to give that spark, and this is the one that did that. um and man, I just looking back on it, I can't think of a problem I had with the show, like in any capacity, with acting, with directing, with cinematography, with effects, CGI, plot, like all of it. I can't see a problem with the show. And that was kind of the same way with The Mandalorian, but in my opinion, this plot goes way more in depth, and you're seeing the stories of so many more people, and it's just executed so perfectly. As for The Mandalorian, it's executed perfectly, but it's just, a Mandalorian and a baby Yoda.
Yeah,
Which is great. I love it. It's a perfect show in my opinion, but this show just does more and does more perfectly as well. And to me, Andor is the best Star Wars show we have gotten uh to this point.
I think so, and I agree. I think the Mandalorian was so well done, because it was new. It wasn't. It's like Andor. It wasn't like lightsabers and good versus bad. It was just a new story, a new character. Uh, but the Mandalorian kind of, when comparing the two, it kind of falls because it's kind of like watching the show is basically a space babysitter,
Yeah.
and it's fun and it's nice and it's a good change of pace. But if I were to compare the two of the better side of Star Wars shows, and it'd be those two. I would take Andor just because of the way it's handled, I guess, like the way the
Yeah.
story's told.
Oh man, it's so hard because I mean, I want to like the Mandalorian better because it's the Mandalorian. It's Baby Yoda, but I just can't because Andor's a better show. And it's not a knock on the Mandalorian or John Favreau or Dave Filoni or anyone who worked on the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian's, like I said, it's a perfect show. There's nothing wrong with it. There's just also nothing wrong with Andor, and Andor explores more in the galaxy, and it's just shows so much more at stake as well because without all of those events transpiring, we don't get the rebellion, and if we don't get the rebellion, we probably don't get the Mandalorian, um, and the aftermaths of the Empire falling. So, yeah,
I mean, yeah, I just think all in all, I mean, every episode of Andor probably scored an 8 or higher, like out of
yeah,
10. Which I mean, that would basically total the show in my scoring to a 9 or 10 out of 10 show. Even it was
yeah.
just, it never let you down.
Like, I very rarely do I watch something, pick up my phone, and text you like, dude, this was perfect. Like, but the heist episode and the prison escape episode and even the finale were perfect. As
Yeah,
in, I literally was shaking or crying at the end of the episode. Like, oh my gosh, it was just incredible. And Yeah, it's so good. But shout out to the Peach Crisp Show, Caleb Ladd and Daniel Stevens. I'm gonna put my score into their rank system without going into detail about it, but just to get my score from out of 100 because I'm very curious. But yeah, no, literally scored a 99 out of 100 on the Peach Crisp scale. Like that's how good this show was. It was a 99 out of 100 for me. And the big thing is just how attached you get to everybody, and like it's so good. And I don't want to keep repeating myself about how good it is, but it is that good.
The characters that they just get you so hooked with them. Like I did not expect it at all. I mean, I saw the promotions and stuff with Diego Luna. And I was like, oh, he's coming back. That's cool. Andor dies, so I was not expecting to get as attached to this story as I did. Like I watched the first 3 episodes when it come out like in school, and now
Yeah.
I knew I was like, I can't watch these in school because people be like, "Why are you crying?" Like, don't even worry about it. Like
Yeah, it's nothing.
I knew that this show would have that effect on me somewhere, and so I'd be like, this I have to wait to go home to watch these shows whenever they come out now.
Yeah. I mean, oh gosh. If this show would have came out before Rogue One, I would not have survived Rogue One. Rogue One was hard
Yeah.
enough for me to survive to begin with, but the fact that they were new characters we were just introduced to, I was okay. Well, I was like when they died, I was like, oh, that sucks. But it's a war. And people who always said, I hate that movie, everyone dies at the end. I was like, people have to die in a war. Like you realize that, right? And thank God this show didn't come out first, because had it come out first, I would have bawled like a baby in Rogue One when Andor died. Like literally cried my eyes out in the theater. It would have been Tony Stark death level, like had this show came out first. So luckily it didn't. I was gonna watch Rogue One right after I watched the finale just because I wanted to, and then I realized I couldn't bring myself to do that, knowing what was gonna happen. So, um, yeah,
That was also it's kind of just a tough watch. I mean, it's a long movie, but it's a good sense. It doesn't ever feel long, but like
yeah,
when you've seen it once and you know how it ends, then it does feel long because you're sitting there and you're like, I don't want it to happen because everything up until the end of the movie is good, and even
yeah.
the end of the movie is good. It's just that it hurts to watch.
Mm-hmm. It does. But with that being said, I think that wraps up this episode. So if you
I think
haven't,
so.
go and watch Andor. You won't regret it. Subscribe to Next Topic Media. You can follow our show on Spotify as well, or anywhere you get your podcast. If you are a podcast listener rather than a YouTube watcher, check out all of our other shows here on Next Topic Media, and we will see you guys next week.